Have you ever seen a real truck that looks like it accidentally shrank in the wash? I'm not talking about toys or RC models. I mean real trucks. Real engines, real steering, real power. The kind of machines that make you stop, stare, and ask yourself how something so small can feel so serious. Today, you're stepping into a world most people don't even know exists. A world where American truck builders looked at massive rigs and said, what if we did the exact opposite? What if we made them smaller, tighter, lighter, but still kept their soul alive? You might assume trucks are supposed to be big, loud, dominating the road, and you'd be right. But what happens when passion overrides logic? That's when some of the smallest American trucks ever built come to life. These machines weren't made by corporations. They weren't mass-produced. They were built by individuals who loved trucks so much they decided size was optional. The first time you see one of these mini trucks, your brain struggles to process it. Your eyes tell you it's small, but your ears hear an engine. Your instincts tell you it shouldn't work, but then it starts moving. And that's when curiosity takes over. You lean closer. You want to know who built it, why they built it, and how something so compact can feel so complete. One of the earliest examples that truly shocked people came from builders who took full-size American truck designs and scaled them down with extreme precision. They didn't just copy the look. They recreated the proportions, the stance, the posture that gives a truck its personality. Even at a reduced size, these trucks still look confident, still aggressive, still proud. What's wild is that many of these builds started in small garages. No factories, no million-dollar budgets, just time, patience, and obsession. Builders would spend years studying full-size trucks, measuring panels, studying frames, understanding suspension geometry, and then reimagining it all at a smaller scale. Every bolt mattered. Every weld had to be right. Some of these tiny trucks were built on modified pickup frames. Others were designed completely from scratch. Custom chassis, custom body panels, custom steering systems. Nothing off the shelf. And despite their size, many of them could still carry adults, cruise around shows, and even tow small trailers. That's when people realized these weren't novelty items. They were real machines. Imagine pulling up to a truck show and seeing a semi-style rig that barely reaches your waist. It has chrome stacks, a detailed grille, perfect paint. Then the owner climbs in, turns the key, and drives away. That moment alone makes people fall in love with miniature trucks forever. But here's what makes these builds even more fascinating. They weren't built just to be cute. They were built to prove something, to challenge the idea that trucks must follow a single formula. Builders wanted to show that craftsmanship, power, and presence don't disappear just because something gets smaller. Some of the smallest American trucks ever built actually perform tasks you wouldn't expect. They can pull sleds, tow equipment, navigate tight spaces where full-size rigs would never fit, and they do it with confidence. When you watch one move, it doesn't feel fragile. It feels intentional. The people behind these machines often say the same thing. Building small is harder than building big. You don't have room for mistakes. Every component must work perfectly. Every measurement has to be exact. There's nowhere to hide sloppy engineering, and that's why these trucks command respect. Not because of their size, but because of the effort behind them. Some builds were inspired by classic American trucks from the 1950s and 60s, others replicated iconic highway rigs from the 80s and 90s. Builders chose models they grew up admiring, trucks they saw rumbling down highways as kids, trucks that represented freedom, work, and strength. Shrinking them down didn't reduce that meaning, it concentrated it. When you see one of these trucks in motion, something strange happens. You smile. Not because it looks funny, but because it feels human. It feels like someone poured their personality into metal. Every curve, every sound, every vibration tells a story of patience and pride. And the best part? This is only the beginning. Because the next trucks take this idea even further, smaller, more detailed, more surprising. Some of them look impossible until you see them move with your own eyes. So, if you think you've seen everything the truck world has to offer, don't blink. Because what comes next proves that sometimes the most unbelievable machines are the ones hiding in plain sight. As you move deeper into the world of miniature American trucks, something becomes clear very quickly. No two builds are the same. Each one reflects the personality of its creator. Some builders chase realism, others chase performance, and a few manage to blend both so perfectly that you forget you're looking at something scaled down. One builder might focus on recreating every single visual detail: the exact grille shape, the correct headlight spacing, the precise angle of the hood. When you stand in front of their truck, it feels like a full-size rig that somehow slipped into a parallel universe and came back smaller. Another builder might care more about function: how smoothly it drives, how tight it turns, how well it handles weight. These trucks may not shine under show lights, but when they move with authority. What's fascinating is how many of these tiny trucks actually seat adults comfortably. That alone shocks people. You expect a cramped toy-like experience. Instead, you sit down, grab the steering wheel, and suddenly it feels like a scaled-down driving experience that still makes sense. Your legs fit. The pedals respond. The truck listens. Many of these builds use surprisingly powerful engines for their size. Not because they need speed, but because torque matters. Builders understand that trucks are about movement, not racing. Even at a smaller scale, the engine has to feel right. The sound has to feel authentic. And when these engines fire up, people gather instantly. You'll see phones come out. Conversations stop. Everyone wants to know what they're hearing. The sound coming from such a small machine doesn't match expectations. And that contrast is exactly why these trucks are unforgettable. Some of the smallest American trucks were built specifically for shows. Others were built simply because the builder wanted to see if it could be done. There was no business plan, no audience, just curiosity. And those builds often become the most impressive ones. You'll find mini trucks with working horns, functional lighting systems, real suspension setups, and even scaled exhaust systems that behave like full-size rigs. Builders don't skip details just because something is small. If anything, they obsess over them more. One of the most impressive things is how stable these trucks feel when moving. You'd expect something small to feel twitchy or nervous, but many of these builds glide smoothly, thanks to carefully balanced frames and tuned suspensions. Again, this isn't accidental. It's engineering. These trucks often appear at events where no one expects them. Car shows, truck meets, parades. And every time, the reaction is the same: laughter, amazement, respect. People crouch down to look underneath. They ask questions. They want to understand how it works. And the builders love that. Because these trucks aren't just machines. They're conversation starters. They connect people. Kids are fascinated by them. Adults appreciate the craftsmanship. Older truckers recognize the designs and feel nostalgia hit instantly. Some miniature trucks even end up traveling across states and countries to appear at exhibitions. They become ambassadors of creativity. Proof that American truck culture isn't limited to one format. What really separates these builds from toys is intention. Toys are simplified. These trucks are complex. They have weight. They have systems. They demand maintenance. They break. They get fixed. They live. And sometimes they outlast expectations. Some builds that started as experiments ended up becoming famous. Others were sold to collectors. A few ended up in museums. Not because they were small, but because they represented something rare. The willingness to build something purely out of passion. As you continue this journey, the trucks start to get stranger. Smaller proportions, tighter packaging, more daring engineering decisions. Builders push boundaries. They experiment. They fail. They try again. And every successful build leaves people asking the same question: why doesn't this exist on a larger scale? Why don't manufacturers take notes? Because sometimes innovation happens far away from corporate boardrooms. It happens in garages, late at night. Driven by curiosity and stubbornness, these miniature trucks prove that American truck culture isn't frozen in time. It evolves. It adapts. It finds new ways to express itself. And sometimes that expression comes in the smallest possible form. But trust me, you haven't seen the most extreme examples yet. Because the next group of trucks takes everything you think you know about size, power, and presence and flips it upside down completely. At this point, you might think there's a limit to how small a truck can be before it stops feeling like a truck. But some builders didn't believe in limits. They believed in challenges. And that's how some of the most jaw-dropping miniature American trucks were born. These builds aren't just scaled down. They're condensed. Every inch is packed with purpose. The engine placement, the drivetrain alignment, the suspension geometry. Nothing is wasted. There's no room for excess. What's incredible is how these tiny trucks still manage to feel balanced. When you see one in motion, it doesn't wobble. It doesn't struggle. It behaves like it knows exactly what it is. A truck, just smaller. Some of these builds are capable of towing loads that look ridiculous next to their size. Seeing a mini truck pulling a trailer triggers disbelief instantly. Your brain refuses to accept it. And yet, there it is. Moving steadily. Doing the job. Builders often talk about how much trial and error goes into these projects. Parts don't always fit. Off-the-shelf solutions rarely work. So they fabricate. They cut. They weld. They test. They redo. Over and over again. And because of that effort, these trucks develop personalities. Some feel calm and smooth. Others feel aggressive and eager. You can tell how they were built just by watching them move. One of the most fascinating aspects is how sound plays a role. A small truck with a deep, confident engine note creates instant authority. It doesn't sound like a toy. It sounds like a machine that belongs. These builds challenge assumptions. They force people to rethink what defines a truck. Is it size or is it function? Is it power or is it intent? When you watch a miniature truck roll through an event, you'll notice something interesting. People don't ignore it. They don't dismiss it. They respect it because effort is visible. Craftsmanship is obvious. Some of these trucks even compete in events. Not against full-size rigs, but in specialized categories where precision matters more than brute force. And in those environments, they shine. The builders behind these machines often become legends within niche communities. Their trucks get shared online. Videos go viral. People across the world discover them and feel inspired. And that inspiration leads to more builds, more experiments, more creativity. It's a cycle that keeps growing quietly, away from mainstream attention. What's even more surprising is how durable many of these trucks are. You'd expect small parts to fail quickly, but because everything is overbuilt relative to size, they often last longer than expected. These trucks aren't fragile. They're tough. They're made to be driven, to be enjoyed, to be shown, to be remembered. And now, you're approaching the final stretch of this journey. The builds that represent the absolute peak of what miniature truck engineering can achieve. The ones that make people question reality when they first see them. Because the last examples don't just surprise you. They shock you. When you finally reach the most extreme miniature American trucks ever built, one thing becomes undeniable. These machines are not jokes. They are statements. They represent thousands of hours of labor, deep technical understanding, and an emotional connection that goes far beyond metal and bolts. Some of these final builds are so detailed that from a distance, they look full-size. Only when someone stands next to them does the illusion break. And when it does, the reaction is pure disbelief. These trucks don't exist to be practical. They exist to prove what's possible. They blur the line between engineering and art. Every surface is intentional. Every component is chosen with care. One of the most impressive aspects is how these trucks perform under real conditions. They start reliably. They steer precisely. They brake smoothly. We feel finished, complete. Seeing one in motion feels surreal. The proportions trick your brain. The sound convinces your instincts. And suddenly, size stops mattering completely. These builds often become centerpieces at events. People gather around them. Photos get taken from every angle. Questions fly. And the builder stands nearby smiling quietly, knowing exactly how much effort went into every inch. What makes these trucks special isn't just what they are. It's why they exist. They exist because someone cared enough to build something that didn't need to exist. Something purely driven by passion. And that's what connects all the smallest American trucks ever built. They were never about efficiency. They were about expression. Each one tells a story. Of late nights. Of mistakes. Of problem solving. Of stubborn dedication. Of refusing to quit. These trucks carry the same spirit as their full-size counterparts. The spirit of the road. The spirit of independence. The spirit of building something with your own hands. By the time you reach the end of this journey, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Size does not define greatness. These trucks may be small, but their impact is massive. They remind you that creativity doesn't need permission, that passion doesn't need approval, and that sometimes the most unforgettable machines are the ones that break expectations completely. So now it's your turn. Which one surprised you the most? Which one would you want in your garage? And if you saw one of these rolling toward you on the road, would you even believe your eyes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because there are still countless hidden machines out there waiting to be discovered. And trust me, the next story might be even smaller and even more unbelievable.